Are going to tell you the truth. The truth that is written in this. And as this world gets crazier and crazier and crazier, all other sources of truth are dwindling away rapidly. But we can still turn to this. And that's what these guys are going to tell you. They're going to tell you some stuff that you won't be told by your teachers at school. But this has
What happened? Did you punch the button?
The button. He's working on something apparently.
Okay. It was on. Hey, look at that.
Ooh.
Thank you. My name is Ryan Cox. I'm from Noble, Oklahoma, where my family is residing right now without me. My wife just sent me this little cute video of my 7.5-month-old jumping up and down the bouncy chair going, dad, 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 dad. He misses me. And he's wearing the St. Louis Cardinals outfit. Yeah, all right, that's good stuff there. All right, so, okay. Dinosaurs tonight, and they are real. They're absolutely real. Now, if you were to ask me if they are a replica or the actual rock fossil, I would say about T-Rexes we never known before. But can they send it and ship him around, FedEx him all around the world? No. Why would anyone use FedEx? But you never do that. Absolutely not. So they made research-level replicas, meaning they cast these from the actual fossil to such a minute detail. You could stick that skull into a CAT scan, get the exact same results as if you were getting the actual one. That's what our ministry, Creation Truth Foundation, has been blessed with regarding these fossils, and so we get to take them. With the Bible, and why should we even care? In the very first chapter of the book, we read, ooh, your youth group's doing a good job. All right. Thank you very much. There it is. All right. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. When you read through chapter 1, you go through the different days of that first creation, of that creation week and what all God established. And the process he went about in doing that. It's an amazing historical event. Now, here's my perspective on this. I am a history guy. My degree's in history. I have a teacher certification for history. I taught history for years and years and years. So I know all the ins and outs about how to establish whether something is historically accurate, is historically true, or not. Let me tell you, this is my all-time favorite history book. From a purely historical perspective, historical analysis, no other book, record of history, stands up to the rigors, the challenges to prove whether or not it's accurate as well as this one. If I showed you the evidence we have that Julius Caesar was a real guy, who believes Julius Caesar was a real guy? Okay? Wow, a lot of skeptics tonight. Okay, Julius Caesar ruled Rome. A lot of the actual history behind it, it's there. When you compare it to the support for the history of this book, it's like, wow, does Julius Caesar actually really exist? Because the level of support of the evidence for this book as being historically accurate is absolutely overwhelming. So when I look at that first week in history, that's how I perceive it. On that first day in history, God established the heavens and the earth. Time began ticking. We have the space-mass time continuum. It's going. On the second day, he does this cool thing of the separation of the waters and establishing an expanse for the universe. On day 3, he reaches down into the water, pulls up dry land. Out of that land grows up all the vegetation. And by the end of that day, there's fruit hanging on the trees with, anybody remember what's in the fruit? Seed in the fruit on that day. The 4th day establishes the sun and the moon and all the other stars, all the other heavenly hosts throughout the rest of the universe. That's an amazing God. Day 5, he brings about water life and winged life. And then on day 6, he establishes land creatures. Who else does he make on that day? Adam and Eve. Mankind. So when we look at that, and then we look at these creatures here, what is the biblical position about when dinosaurs existed and when people existed? What's the biblical position on that? Dinosaurs would have lived during the same time as people. Exactly. Now, is that what we're told in movies, in National Geographic? In textbooks? Is that what we're told? No. We're told they died out when? About 65, the actual technical number now is 66 million years ago, through some kind of global catastrophe, like an asteroid or something like that. Guess how much evidence we have for that? Very, very little, if any. In fact, there are great skeptics on it. In fact, there are over 22 published different extinction theories of what happened to the dinosaurs. And they're all very interesting because in every one of them, only dinosaurs go extinct. And everything else stays alive. That's a very weird extinction event. But you see, the biblical position is on that 6th day of history, let the earth bring forth living creatures after their kind, cattle and creeping things and beasts of the earth after their kind, and it was so. The words used there in the original language mean from the biggest, most gargantuan to the teeniest things crawling out and everything in between. Would that include or not include dinosaurs? That would include, absolutely. And then after he makes all the animals, he said, it is good, meaning he's finished, he's done making animals. Then he says, let us make man in our image. In the image of God, he made them, male and female, he created them. And you know what he says in Ephesians chapter 2? He says, you, those who are in his image, are his masterpiece of all the things he's ever made. That's what God thinks of you. So, when we go through this then, I love to look at it as dinosaurs in history. Usually you hear dinosaurs referred to as prehistoric. That always bugged me as an historian, because how can you have anything before history? Prehistory. Is that not a weird term? Now, the reason they use that term is because they mean before written history, meaning they lived before people. Again, that is an evolutionized term. That's a term to make you think that the history of this book is not true. But when we start looking at the evidence of this, we would find dinosaurs, I'm telling you, we find dinosaurs and records of dinosaurs, depictions of dinosaurs, all throughout history, and it is amazing. Now, here's the thing. When I start looking at this from a historical perspective, am I going to look for somebody's journal in ancient Egypt or India or wherever saying, yesterday I went out and I saw the most beautiful dinosaur. It had these purple stripes on it. And the dinosaur, I think, was like a stegosaurus. And his shields were all arranged so that... Are we going to find that? No. We are not. Absolutely not. Because, here's the problem with that. When did we even get the word dinosaur? This lovely, charming-looking guy, Sir Richard Owen, derives this word in 1841, publishes it in 1842, Dinosauria. And the word is comprised of two Greek words, which literally means big, scary reptile. Big, scary reptile. Large, terrible, fearfully great lizard reptile creature. So when I'm looking at this from a historical perspective, what then in each civilization am I going to be looking for? Think about it. What am I going to be looking for? Yeah, what am I going to be looking for in each civilization?
Pictures.
Pictures? Are they going to have the word dinosaur? No, they're not. But will they have a word maybe, or different words that describe big scary reptiles? Yes, and that's what we have to look for. Your Bible has multiple words that it uses for that. One in particular are some really cool words. In other civilizations, we find cool words. In fact, there's one word that becomes very dominant throughout many civilizations. What is a word that could be used for big, scary reptile in other civilizations, or that we even still use today? Ah, there it is. Dragons. Exactly. It comes from Latin and Greek. Each one of those words means big, scary reptile. In fact, the all-knowing Wikipedia has this entry. It says, the Greek and Latin terms refer to any great serpent, any great reptile, not necessarily mythological. Oh, really? Not necessarily. How about that? In fact, when this particular dinosaur was discovered, the Dracorex hogwartsia, you never guess where they got that name. They discovered it. It looks like one of these packies. And the sign here, it's held at the Children's Museum in Indianapolis. They said it's a new kind of dinosaur that looks like a what? Dragon. If you did not have the word dinosaur, could you describe this type of dinosaur as a dragon? Would that kind of meet that description? Absolutely, it sure would. So they have this question. Is it a dinosaur? Is it a dragon? My answer to that would be yes. Absolutely. So, in the Bible, there is a word that means big scary reptile. It can be used for land, it can be used for sea, a couple times even for those in the air. It's the word tanin. If you were to take this word tanin, the King James used to translate it as dragon. If we substitute the new scientific term, dinosaur, in there, your Bible would say things like this. I'm a brother. Dinosaurs comparing to owls in Job. Talk about dinosaurs and owls. Or lions, cobras, young lions, and dinosaurs. Are all those creatures real creatures that once lived or are still living? Sure, absolutely. So it fits these types of descriptions. It talks about these creatures as real creatures They even knew where they lived, where you could find them if you wanted to go seek them out. Sometimes you didn't want to go seek them out. You'd be better to stay home. And so you see these, you find these throughout history. There's one in particular in Job chapter 40. A fascinating creature that is called Behemoth. And Behemoth is described as the biggest, most impressive creature that has ever walked the planet. Some of the descriptions given in Job chapter 40 is that it eats grass. What does that automatically mean it is? If it eats grass, it's what? Herbivore. Okay, so can T-Rex qualify? So he's probably not talking about T-Rex, most likely not. He has great strength in all of his muscle structure, massive, huge muscles all throughout. He has this gigantic tail, humongous tail. It's like a cedar tree. When he talks about cedar trees in the Bible, they're talking about the massive, gargantuan trees from Lebanon. They use those in constructing the temple. Huge, massive trees. Bones like bronze, massive bones, skeletal structure. Limbs like bars of iron. Lives in reeds and marsh, walks through turbulent river. And it says he is the first among God's works. The Bible specifically says the creature being described is the largest land animal that has ever existed. Period. What is the largest land animal that we know to date that has ever existed on our planet and had a tail like a massive cedar tree? I see somebody back there who wants to answer. Long neck. Long neck dinosaur? The long neck, long tailed dinosaurs are classified as sauropods. Everybody say sauropod. Sauropod. Would those meet this description? We have one, not us personally, but back at home in Oklahoma at OU, at the Sam Noble Natural History Museum, we have this Albertasaurus there. If you go in and you measure it, his tail comes out to 30 feet long, and up there at the base of it, it is 5 feet thick, measuring the processes there. And that's without any muscle, tendons, skin. That is one major tail. In fact, it would be one of the largest tails ever discovered amongst living creatures. Would this creature match the description of what God is talking about, showing in person Job in Job chapter 40? Would that match the description?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. However, if you're looking in your Bible, down at the footnote, it may say something like, maybe it's a hippopotamus or elephant. That's what the footnote might say down at the bottom, a suggestion. What kind of a tail does a hippo have? Or an elephant? Yeah, it would be like, would you describe that as a massive cedar tree from Lebanon? Not, maybe a twig. Does not match. We had the opportunity a couple years ago to go to the Chicago Fugue Museum right after they had installed the new Patagotitan. It is classified as of right now, although they found a fossil of something here this last month that they're now wondering about. As for currently, as of right now, this is the largest sauropod discovered to date. It's bigger than any other. Thing's over 120 feet long. In fact, if you look right here, this is me. Right here, standing beside him. Right there, that's me, standing beside him. He's looking into the second story balcony up there. Massive, massive creature. Would this fit the description of what Job was seeing, what the Lord was showing him? Yes, absolutely. Now, did he start off that big? No, he was born from an egg about the size of a soccer ball. Because you see, one of the things that we also have to answer regarding this in the Bible is, how did they survive the flood? Because Job is written sometime after the flood. That means dinosaurs would have had to survive the great global flood, which means they would have had to have been where during the flood?
On the ark.
On the ark. Could they have fit on the ark? When you're born this big, yes, you can fit on the boat. And if you're going to be going on as a juvenile, which is what you would take, Because one, they're going to eat less food, and two, afterwards, they're going to be able to have several reproductive cycles, which is what you're going to need to repopulate the species. You're talking about a sauropod dinosaur about that big, about that long. Would they fit on the ark? Yes, there's no problem fitting. In fact, you can fit all the animals you need for everything that once was alive or is alive today on the ark and still have the whole top floor open. What was that whole top floor for then? What was all that extra space on the ark for? What did Noah do for 120 years? Peter says. He preached. He begged people. He was begging them, come be saved. Enter through the one door of salvation. Did any other people join them? Only his family. 8. That's it. Sad. You have an invitation to enter through the one door as well. So, is Job the only one who ever saw sauropods then? Is he the only one we have a record of? As I start looking through this stuff, I start finding incredible things like this cylinder seal, a government official seal from modern-day Iraq dating around 2000 BC. What do we have here? Big, huge, muscular creatures with 4 legs, long neck, long tails. And here's the cool thing. They're walking upright on their legs. When we first started finding these things back in the early 1800s, they would draw pictures of these creatures as like sprawled out walking like this, like some kind of alligator with a major birth defect or something. I don't know what the deal was. They had no clue that they walked upright on their legs. That is what, by the way, in case you want, you're going to sound really smart now when you see your teachers. That's what classifies a reptile as a dinosaur and not with the rest of reptilian. They walk upright on their legs, not sprawled out like a turtle or a gator. They walk upright on their legs. How's it depicted from 2000 BC? Upright on its legs. You go to Egypt. I actually got to see this one in person in 2010. This is called the Narmer Plate. This is for the first pharaoh who ruled both Upper and Lower Egypt. And on the back of it are these 2 serpentine-like creatures. Let me give you a more enhanced view of it. This is an illustration of it. Okay, so you're upright on their legs with big, long necks. And what are they doing with their necks? Intertwining. What were they doing on the previous one? Intertwining them. Then, if you go to the Carlisle Cathedral in England, there's this brass engraving that is for Bishop Bell's burial plot. And what do we have? 2 serpentine-like creatures with 4 legs, upright legs. And what are they doing with their necks? Intertwining them again. Now, I had taught on this for years and was always like, this is so cool. We have accurate sauropod depictions from Asia, Africa, and Europe. From different time periods. But they all have the same accurate depiction. And then somebody came up to me afterwards and said, do you realize what we got here? And I said, well, yeah, we got these cool depictions from Asia, Africa, and Europe. He's like, no. Do you realize what we have here? He said, what are they doing in all 3 of them? Well, they're interlocking. He's like, we have not just depictions, we have observed behavior. And somebody had to pick me up off the floor. I was like, that is amazing. These things are found all around the world, these kinds of depictions. There you got something here from Indonesia that looks something like a Dilophosaurus. We have this urn here from Asia Minor, 530 BC. It looks like a plesioplatycarpus. Fits the descriptions there. There's eye sockets, the fins, everything like that, along with other creatures that are still alive today. We've got, from Italy, a pre-Greek civilization from around 1000 BC. They dug these clay figurines up, and they've got these shields on the back, and you count them, 1, 2, 3, 4 spikes on the tail. What does that match? Stegosaurus, exactly. You go over to Utah, to the Anasazi Indians, around 150 BC to 1200 AD. They were doing these pictographs, and what do we have here? It looks like a sauropod dinosaur. Guess what the non-biblical explanation for that is? It's just a mud stain. Don't pay any attention to it. Don't ever go look at it. It's just a mud stain. Okay. I like this one. This missionary went to Australia a few years ago, like back in the 70s, Dennis Fields, and he was talking to these people, and he said, and they were telling this story about the great Yaru, this creature, and how one time this little girl fell into the water, and the creature came up and swallowed it, and the people were all upset. They tried to hunt it down and rescue it, but they weren't able to. He's like, wow, that's amazing. I wonder what that creature looked like. He said, well, the tribal artist can make you a picture. He's like, oh, well, that's cool. Sure, that'd be cool. They bring him the depiction, and he could not believe what it had. He brings it back home, gives it to Ken Ham, and Answers in Genesis. They have it to this day now. And this was the depiction they gave him. You see the little girl in the stomach. It looks just like a plesiosaur. Even got the skeletal structure and the digestive system. As if they had maybe butchered one of these one time before. One specimen had a skull length of 9 feet. Could that swallow a little girl? Did they have National Geographic there in the out far away from civilization? No. In Tay Prom, in Cambodia, there's this Buddhist monastery that was built in the late 1100s, and it was used as a training facility, kind of as a university. And you go back and you find this column that has these reliefs that have been carved in, and you get to this one right here. What's that kind of look like? Looks like kind of like a dinosaur, but kind of like a what kind? A stegosaurus. Now, there had always been questions about it, though, because when you look closely at it, it's got the shields on the back, it's upright on the legs, but they can't see any spikes on the tail, and this really weird on the head. Really weird on the head. You can see his mouth and his nose, his eyeball, but it looks like there's something on his head. It comes up to a cone and then this little ring up here. What could that possibly be? No one ever had a good answer for that until a guy named David Woodsell went over in 2017, took all kinds of measurements of it, got his discoveries, came back and published an Answers, a research journal, peer-reviewed journal, and he said, yeah, it's a legit carving, but then I went inside and was doing some research and I found something else. And inside there I found the exact same creature, and this is with it enhanced here. You still have the shields on it, but that ring, we've wondered for years what that was. On this one, there was the ring and then this rope coming off of it, almost like it was harnessed to be used. What do people sometimes do to their cats when they have them live inside with them?
Put a leash on them.
They harness, they put a leash. What do they do to their claws? They have them declawed, okay, so they don't tear things up. What might you do if you were going to harness one of these creatures? What might you do to the spikes in the tail? I would take those things out. Here you have a depiction of a harnessed stegosaur dating to late 1100s AD. Why is that interesting? You go up north to China. Oh, it's funny. This guy named Glenn Cuban, he tries to explain it because he doesn't believe the biblical account. And so these pictures are directly from his website. He says it is obviously not a stegosaurus. It's either a rhinoceros or a chameleon, but not a stegosaurus. And those are his pictures. I looked at that. I said, I think he's got a point. Rhinoceros, chameleon. I get those two confused all the time. They look so plausible, right? Okay, yeah, kind of weird. All right. At the same time this temple is built, up in China, you have incredible records about dragons, big scary reptiles, being used by the inhabitants of China. In particularly, Wu Bin. Wu Bin, dating to the same time as that temple. They had dragon rearers, dragon tamers, dragon feeders, and he would harness these dragons and use them to pull his chariots to go up to the top of the mountain to offer his sacrifice and praise to his gods. So you have a written description, you have a carved sketching of the same thing that corroborate each other, and then just 100 years later, Marco, every time. Good, you're still awake. That's good. He travels to China, 1298, goes to the province of Kharazm, And this is what he wrote about what he saw when he went there. Leaving the city of Yachi and traveling 10 days into a westerly direction, you reach the province of Karazhan, which is also the name of its chief city. Here are seen huge serpents, huge reptiles, big reptiles. 10 paces in length, 10 spans of the girth of the body. At the forepart near the head, they have 2 little short legs, having 3 claws like those of a tiger, with eyes larger than a 4-penny loaf, big eyes, very glaring. The jaws are wide enough to swallow a man. The teeth are large and sharp, and their whole appearance is so formidable that neither man nor any kind of animal can approach them without terror. Some people say, well, he's just making something up. He goes into incredible detail of how they would hunt these things down, especially if they were getting into their livestock and eat them. They would dig a little hole out, put a spike in there, cover it back up, and when the thing's walking through, it steps on the spike, it goes up through his foot. They hear their animals, the crows or something like that, start going off like this thing has fallen over, it's bleeding. They go, they pounce on it, they attack it, they spear it, and then they butcher it. And they use some of the internal, he gives all this incredible, they use some of the internal organs for medicines, for salves, for all kinds of stuff. And the meat, Anybody here ever had something like gator tail? Succulent, it's flavorful. That's almost exactly how he describes the meat of it. He said it was one of the most prized meats in all the land. What is Marco Polo describing here? Sounds like a dinosaur. Large reptile. He calls it a reptile. It has big legs, itty bitty arms, giant head, sharp teeth, 25 feet long. What's it sound like he's describing?
A T-Rex.
Sounds like a T-Rex. Pay attention to the details. How many fingers does a T-Rex have? 2 claws.
How rude.
How many does he say this one had?
3.
3. So we need a reptile that dates to, that would be about the same size. Theropod dinosaur, when they have big legs and arms, they're called theropods. Everybody say theropod? Theropod. Average size, 25 feet, 3 claws. Is there anything like that in the fossil record? Allosaurus. For a guy who's just making something up, what an amazing coincidence that he just happened to describe in perfect detail an Albertasaurus dinosaur. I could go on and on and on and on and showing you examples from all over the world. Except Antarctica. Not too many people making pictures of dinosaurs down there. But all around the world, from every continent, all kinds of depictions in tapestries, in paintings, in carvings, in pendants. You think you know what a Chinese dragon looks like? Let me show you a few. This is a Chinese dragon. It's 2000 BC. It's a little pendant they would wear as kind of like a necklace. Here's another one. Let me show you my favorite one. Here's it. I'm done. This is my last point. How could they have done all these depictions, all these descriptions in precise, accurate detail when the first documented dinosaur fossil was discovered in 1824? We don't even come up with the term until 1841, and we don't even make a guess as to what one of these looks like until they build this creepy looking weird thing in 1854 out of concrete. How could they do that? Logically? Rationally? Scientifically? What's the only explanation? They saw them with their own eyes. Some will not accept that because the issues that we talk about tonight, when we talk about any of this, it's not a matter of this. It's always a matter of this. Don't be someone who does not heed the call to enter through the one door of salvation. That's the historical part about dinosaurs. Matt Miles, the president of our ministry, has some few cool things to show you about the science behind these creatures.
So fossils. How many of you, when you hear the word fossil, you picture a dinosaur?
When I was your age, if somebody said fossil, my brain went to a dinosaur. That was fossil equals dinosaur. That was how my brain worked, okay? You need to understand, fossils are not just dinosaurs. Fossils are really rock, okay? It's something that used to be living that is now dead. It's been buried by and large. The reason we have a fossil is it's something that gets buried very quickly with lots of mud and lots of water. So Ryan just a second ago stated to you what buried everything to give us fossils. When did that happen biblically? What event in this book, in the truth, that had lots of water, that would have most likely, if it had lots of water, it would make lots of mud? The flood. Seems reasonable, doesn't it? How much of the globe does the Bible say the flood covered? The entire earth. If it covered the entire earth, should we expect to find fossils everywhere? Yes. Guess where we find them? Everywhere. See, a lot of times in our worldview, that's our belief system. We have this idea that fossils are always dinosaurs. We have this idea sometimes in our worldview that it's always stuff that's dead and gone. All of those are totally false. We still have lots and lots of things that are in the fossil record. We still have them alive today. Let me show you a couple. Let me just show you a couple, okay? Things like, let's see. Let's look at this guy first. Oh. No. Oh, maybe I'm not going to show you. It's taking its sweet time. There we go. What is that? That's a squid. Not a raptor claw. Nice guess. Said that. Let me see you. Is it? No.
This man right here.
No. Not a raptor claw, but nice guess. That is a squid. A squid. Do squid have hard parts? See, generally we think of a fossil as being the hard part of something, the bone of something. Do these guys have hard parts? No. But we have fossil bone. So please, in your worldview, if you've got the idea that it's only hard stuff that makes fossils, throw it away, because that's not true, okay? There was such a well-preserved squid, listen to me, in the fossil record, just a few years ago discovered, that the ink sac was still liquid in it. The rest of it was fossilized. The rest of it was rock, but the ink sac was still liquid. Because we've heard lots of things in our lives about what's in the rocks. We've heard lots of ideas in our lives through movies and textbooks and all kinds of things about how old everything in those rocks are. How many hundreds of millions of years different layers are. Who's heard those things? It's added too. I grew up in Colorado. I grew up next to mountains. So earth science, when I was a freshman, was not just earth science looking at a textbook. We went to the mountains and we studied the rocks. Guys, listen, if you're a Bible believer sitting here today, I grew up knowing Christ from the time I was itty bitty. I mean, I accepted him and was saved at 13, guys. That's when I gave my life to him. And I never went with the idea, the biological idea that we have some common ancestor that's a primate. That idea of evolution never was an issue to me. I was like, there's no way that that's right. But how old the rocks are? How old these dinosaurs are? That I never had a good biblical answer for, guys. I was always like, but science is really pretty for sure about how old them rocks are. And how old are dinosaurs, guys? How old have you heard? At least 65 to 66 million years old. Because why? Why? Have you ever asked the question why? Why would they be 60 plus million years old? Why? Does it have the tag on it when you pull it out of the ground? Does this fossil here, by the way, we're talking about fossils that are rock. Hang on to that, please. Hang on. Past that, please. Does that feel like an actual fossil? Yes or no? So that was a yes or no question. Why? Why does it feel like a fossil? Why does it feel like a fossil? It's heavy, like a rock, right? Is it hard like a rock? Yes. See, we find things in the fossil record, things that have been buried, things that have turned to rock. This is a piece of coprolite. This is dinosaur poopy. At least that's the idea. Now, hang on. Shh, focus. The obvious question for you that I need to ask is, has this always been hard like a rock? Well, we hope not. It could have caused all kinds of other problems, right? That's a whole other issue. But wait. Hang on. See, we have this idea that it takes hard things to be able to turn and become fossilized and become rock. Simply not true. It also, this does not come out of the ground with a tag that says, I am a dinosaur poopy. Like when somebody tells you that, the first question in your brain should be, how on earth do you know that? Because what would be the only way I would absolutely know that? No, not a taste test. Nice idea though. For real? Okay, let me just share a quick little, for real. I'm holding this one time at a VBS at a church as kids were filing out of the room to touch it. I looked down as I'm talking to somebody over here. I looked down just in time to see this dude. Like third grade. That was when you guys were like, I'll do anything for her to dare. Okay, so this has been licked. So you might want to wash your hands later, but that's been a few years. But a lot of other people will touch it since then. So there's probably who knows what on this. Anyway, so there's no way we absolutely know what this is from. Unless we would have observed it being what? Laid down. That's the only way we know for sure. It does not have a tag on it that says I was laid down by T-Rex 65 million years ago. Doesn't say that. Fossils do not come out of the ground with tags on them. It's your worldview. It's your belief system. It tells you how old it is. Or there's this thing called radiometric dating. What's one of those forms of radiometric dating that you've heard about? What was it? Carbon dating. Yes, carbon dating. Carbon dating will never give you a date over 50,000 years, right? Just everybody agree with me, because that's true. That's a true statement.
True.
A carbon-14 decays away, and after about 17-ish half-lives, it's so gone, it's so decayed away, we cannot detect it any longer. So accurately, a date is like 50,000 years. So would we, if our belief system is they are how old? How old are dinosaurs? At least 65 million. Would any of the dinosaur bones have carbon-14 in them? If observably we cannot detect carbon-14 after 50,000 years, should any of them have any carbon-14 in them? No, that seems logical. But wait. In 2015, there was a couple of scientists that took 16 samples, some of which were dinosaur bones. Took 16 samples. They took all of these samples from layers of rock that were at least, by an evolutionary worldview, at least 10 million year old rock. All the way down to 200 plus million year old rock. All of the samples. Sent them to 5 different of the leading carbon dating laboratories on the planet to see if there was any carbon-14 in them. They're at least 10 million years old, up to 200 plus million years old, should they have any carbon-14 in them? Now, what's the most accurate, oldest date you will ever get for carbon-14? 50,000 years. Say this with me again, please. 50,000 years. In this peer-reviewed journal, they put their findings. In this journal, there were osteocytes, There were, oh good grief, where is my slide? Here it is. Over 30 different, here we are. Over 30 plus samples came back with detectable carbon-14. There was not one sample in all of those samples dated by an evolutionary dating idea of how old the rocks are, of millions to hundreds of millions of years. Every, how many? Every sample came back with detectable carbon-14 in it. From every laboratory. It wasn't like one laboratory like messed up and contaminated it with like something from now. Every laboratory detected carbon-14. Guess what that shows? Things in the fossil record most likely are not the age we thought they were. What does that mean about dinosaurs? That means they're quite possibly not the age we thought they were. At some point tonight afterwards, I want you to come up and check out this fossil we have. It's from Glen Rose, Texas. Glen Rose, Texas is known for their fossil tracks of dinosaurs. Near Glen Rose, Texas, though, there was a man that came across a different crack. As the water had eroded away some of the layers, they came across a different track. In the tracks are these tracks from an Acrocanthosaurus dinosaur. It was a three-toed dinosaur. He walked on his hind legs, similar to T-Rexes and other sauropods. But in this specific one, it looked like there was another track there of something that had 5 toes. Bigger, big toe, first toe, and then Sasquatch. See, that's what I am assuming you were thinking, right? Right? Yeah, but it's not the size of a Sasquatch foot. Give me, how big's your foot, sir?
Size 14.
14. It actually was a little smaller than a 14. It's actually closer to about a size, I think if memory serves me, about a size 10 or 11. Okay? Do you see the dinosaur track? Do you see the human track? Now listen very closely to me. Because maybe in your worldview, you're like, but yeah, that could be faked, right? I mean, like that could be carved. Like that's, come on. Listen to me. The fellow that got it said, okay, so if it's carved, so you have mud. Everybody with me? You got a layer of mud, right? That's how you make a footprint, right? Do you just step on a rock and make a footprint? No. It has to be still liquid, right? So there's a density to that mud. All the little particles have a density to it. When you step in it, what's it do underneath of your foot with all the little particles? Compacts it, right? So the assumption is, if this is legit footprints, what should be the density of the rock underneath the footprint versus next to the footprint? Much denser. Are you with me? When you step in the mud, it compacts the little pieces of parts and puts them closer together than next to the footprint. Sometimes it squishes it out and makes it a little more dense around the footprint. They took this print to an MRI machine and then they observed slices going through it. Over 300 plus images were taken. Guess what it precisely shows? Density of the rock is under the footprints. See, if you carved it out of the rock, would the density be any different under as it is next to? No, it'd be exactly the same if it was carved out of a rock. No, this shows the footprints. This shows a dinosaur footprint stepping across a human footprint. As if maybe we have lived together. Just like the Bible says. Remember what day the dinosaurs were made on? Day 6, because they're land animals. What day does the Bible say we were made on? Day 6, the same day. See, we've been taught things, we hear things that continue to try to tell us that the Bible's history of 6,000 years is totally unreasonable. Because, I mean, we look at, we never, how many of you walked in here tonight and are like, I always see dinosaurs as 6,000 years old? There may be a handful of you, because you bothered to study outside of what the Discovery Channel has told you. Listen to me. Focus. There are other things that support that the Word of God's history is right. Like material out of the middle of a T-Rex femur bone found in Montana. T-Rex femur bone. So large they had to break it in half. When they broke it in half, they realized, wait, fossils are what again? Rocks. They broke it in half, and they realized the interior of the fossil was not rock. It still looked like original material. And the lady that was working on it, she uses this wonderful tool that the Lord put on the end of our face. She sniffs it. You know why she's sniffing it? Because when she gets close to it, this wonderfully designed little device right here smells sticky stuff. As if it was still decaying. But she's looking at a T-Rex femur bone that is supposed to be at least 66 million years old. Her actual, because of based on the date of the layer, the guess of how old the layer is, it was actually supposed to be 90 million years old. But in her laboratory, she's looking and smelling something still decaying right in front of her face. She takes a portion of it out. She's been trained by one of the leading paleontologists in the world. His name is Jack Horner. He worked with Steven Spielberg to make Jurassic Park as real as Jurassic Park is. They went to a paleontologist. Steven Spielberg, he doesn't know anything about dinosaurs. So he went to a dinosaur expert. Help me make dinosaurs real. So Jack Horner taught Mary Schweitzer how to wash fossils to get a pure fossil. Get rid of all the contamination and stuff. To her surprise, when she put it under a microscope, she realized she didn't have a rock fossil. She had soft tissue of a T-Rex. Guys, this is in the late 1990s. Mid to late 1990s. In Montana. She went on to cut some of the pieces and parts up, and you can go get this interview with her off of 60 Minutes from back in the early 2000s. And then she slices some of it up, puts it under a microscope, and discovers, what's that look like?
Blood cells.
Blood cells. Red blood cells. Her worldview is going, wait a minute, 90 million year old, and I'm finding blood cells. Like, that's not computing, okay? So she doesn't say anything. She said in her paper, she said, I asked some of my lab colleagues to come over and look and tell me what they see in the microscope. Didn't tell them what they were going to look at, didn't tell them what it was from, just said, come tell me what you see. Guess what every one of them came over and said? Well, it looks like blood cells. So what, Mary? And then she would go, well, it's out of that T-Rex femur bone. They said, go tell Jack. Have you told Jack yet? She said, no, I haven't told Jack yet. She tells Jack. Jack says, Mary, you need to do every test to show me it's not what you think it is. Guess what every test came back positive for? Hemoglobin and blood cells. She has went on and she has found numerous dinosaur red blood cells. Numerous. We have them about quite a few different dinosaurs now. So there's a radio talk show host in Denver, Colorado. He happens to be a creationist. He loves the Lord, loves the Word of God. He finds out about the soft tissue. tissue. So he actually writes a letter to Jack Horner. Says, hey Jack, I want to give you $10,000 to use in your museum in Bozeman, Montana. Use it however you want to. I also want to pay to have that soft tissue carbon dated. He heard nothing. He heard nothing from Jack Horner. So Jack, on his radio show one day, he calls him. Actually gets through to Jack Horner. You can download the whole 8-minute conversation. I'm not going to share the whole 8-minute conversation with you, because there are words that you should not be using in it. Listen to me for a second before I play this phone conversation. If you think this is just a scientific issue, this evolution creation thing, if you think it's just like if you're a Bible believer and you think you're the only one that has faith, that is totally wrong. If you're an evolutionist in here today, I am way glad you're here tonight. Because I need you to know there's somebody that made you, whether you acknowledge him or accept him, that made you and designed you. There is nothing in the evolutionary, the whole little thing, that can explain anything about you. Anything. Please listen to me. Don't shut me out for a second. If you think this is about science and faith, it's not what it's about, guys. It is about your soul. It is about your life. And I can't say it any clearer than that. I've been doing this a long time, guys. I used to be a youth pastor. I'm just a tortured one now, doing creation science. I see such great potential in every one of you guys' eyes. Don't let Satan blind you from seeing truth. Because some of it's right in front of us. And we just don't bother to even look for it. He calls Jack Horner on the radio one day. Hey Jack, did you get my letter about carbon dating that soft tissue that you and Mary found? Jack's like, he says, well, Jack, what if I get you $20,000 for your museum? And then Jack says this. Please listen. I hope. Is the volume on? Volume's on? Come on. Things like being slow tonight. Maybe it'll start in a second.
Let me tell you where I'm coming from here.
That's Jack.
All right? Obviously, your group is a group of creationists.
Yes.
And the spin they can get off of it,
Right.
doing it, is
Well,
not going to help us.
Yeah. So even though it's just a scientific test, they're not asking for voodoo.
It's not actually a scientific test. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Carbon-14 dating something with soft tissue in it.
Right after that moment's when the conversation ceases being nice. Because this is not about science. This is not actually about finding truth. If it was, if I was Jack Horner, put yourself in Jack Horner's shoes for a second. Say you've got this crazy creationist on the phone with you that is offering up tens of thousands of dollars for your museum. You could get a whole new little exhibit that would make fun of every creationist on the planet with their own money. Hello? Wouldn't you take it? Like if you really believe everything that you're sold out to in your life, why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you take the money? Do the test. If you really believe it is what it is and how old it is, take the crazy creationist money. Show them. Prove them wrong. Shut them up. That's not what it's about. He doesn't do the test. You know why I think he doesn't do the test? Because he can't explain red blood cells in something that's millions of years old. That makes zero sense. And he is highly fearful, is my guess, that it's going to come back positive with carbon-14 in it, which, as much as he says it's not a scientific test, I would love to have that discussion between him and another geology professor in the same university. That's a scientific test. We can observe how much carbon-14 is in something. That is observable, testable, repeatable. That is what's not observable, testable, repeatable in that scientific process is when we add a date to it. That's guesswork. That's worldview. Is everybody hearing me? Please don't allow things in your life that you hear or see that you think have a problem with this book historically. Please don't go and ride with things that you hear and see that says 6,000 years can't possibly be right. Because when we actually do observable science, guess what supports that time period? Red blood cells, carbon dating, soft tissue, footprints, every civilization on the planet having something calling some of them dinosaurs or dragons. Every culture on the planet suggests that we have lived with them. And who said it first? This did. Eyeballs. Look at me. Eyeballs. Please know this is truth above all other truth. And there's never anything. It asks us to do science, and there's never going to be anything that we observe, test, repeat, and falsify. We actually do science on that will ever have a problem with it. It won't have a problem with this. Now, somebody's interpretation of that data may have a problem with this. But is that the scientific data? No, that's the interpretation of the scientific data. Are you following me? High schoolers that are inside, you understand what I'm saying, don't you? Trust what this says about your life. When it says nobody is perfect and we all need salvation because we all fall short of the perfect line, which is Christ, that means we all need it. It means that, listen, if death was here prior, if that T-Rex was up there munching on blood-containing life and causing death prior to sin, the Bible says sin came, and what came with sin? Death. That was a penalty for sin. Death. But wait, if everything's been here for millions of years, eating things and causing death, then can the Bible be right that death came with sin? If it was here by dinosaurs eating everything, causing death millions of years prior, is that causes a problem for sin equaling death? Hello? Yes? No? Maybe? Yes. If there's death here on the earth prior to sin, why would Jesus have to die for you? See, he wouldn't have had to die for you. If death was already here, that makes 0 sense. Him going to the cross makes 0 sense. But see, this book says that we've all fallen short. We've all sinned. Just as the first 2 image bearers sinned. And we are in need of a Savior just as they were. We are in need of a covering of innocent blood that covers sin, just like in the garden when Adam and Eve, their sin was covered by the skins of an innocent animal that lost its life in the hands of the Lord for the first time, the first death. He comes 2,000 years ago in the same matter as us. And he shed his blood to cover your sin. And the dinosaurs, they don't say that that's not right. If anything, they echo and say the history here is right. Please trust it. Students, look at me. Put your faith here. Because you're being asked every day to put your faith in something. Every day Put it here. Put it in something that's reliable, that's trustworthy, that brings hope. Our world looks a little hopeless. Hello? I mean, I can't imagine being at your age now and seeing the world. I cannot imagine. I'm freaked out enough as an adult. Looking at you guys, like looking around going, what is going on? The adults have lost their minds. Yeah, I agree. So be different. So be different. Be the image bearers that God made you to be. Help us. Seek the Lord first. Please do not go into your science teachers. Listen to me. Listen, focus. I'm finishing. Don't go into your science teachers that you think don't believe the same as you biblically. One, you've probably never asked them, so don't assume anything. Two, they're oftentimes being asked to teach you things because they have to. It's in the textbook, whether they believe it or not. So you going into a classroom and spouting off and disrespecting them doesn't help your witness. If they are somebody that doesn't believe in a biblical worldview, that believes in an evolutionary worldview, maybe you've been placed in that classroom this year for just the purpose to share light in their life. But you know what? Disrespecting them is not going to help that. Because the Lord has put that person in authority over you. So listen to me, here's what you do. You study everything that's being taught to you, and you're like, I don't know, that seems a little fishy. Like, I'm not sure about that. And you go home and you start breaking out all the PhD guys that love the Word of God. All the creation scientists that are seriously, they're PhD scientists. Don't let Bill Nye lie to you and say, oh yeah, there's no scientists that love that can do science and work in the Bible. That's total false. So go study after these guys. Find out what it is that you've heard that day. Whatever the topic is, go to some creation sites. Answers in Genesis, Creation Ministry International, Institute for Creation Research. All of these sites. You can Google whatever the subject was from class that day. In the little search box on those sites. There will be mountains of articles on whatever that subject is. Then, when you take your test, you have to be the better student. Hello? Quit being slackers. If you hold the name of Christ, quit being a slacker. Because you're going to write down everything that you're expected to get the A. And then you're going to star it. And you're going to asterisk it. And then down at the bottom of the page and on the side and on the back, you're going to put the little asterisk for whatever number that was that you're answering. And then you're going to put the biblical reason. And then you're just going to hand the paper in. You haven't been snotty to your teacher. You haven't been disrespectful to your teacher. Your teacher takes that, and then they have to read it. Guess what they have to give you for your grade? Because you regurgitated everything you were supposed to put back on the test. They give you your A. But at the same time, they're reading your belief system, your worldview. Guess what they might do? They might come to you. Be ready. Be ready to give an answer for your, what does Peter say? For your hope. It's because you're different. You're different than everybody else. You hold his name. You hold the name of the creator of the universe on your life. Praise. Lord, tonight, Lord, it's been such a good week. Lord, to be with fellow brothers and sisters, and Lord, tonight, these students, Lord, my heart breaks for them. Lord, the things that they have to go through now, Lord, that most of us as adults never went through. Lord, the struggles, the things going on around them. What just seems like utter insanity right now. Lord, I ask that you comfort them. Give them hope. Allow them to know, especially those in this room now that have given their lives to you, that you have saved them. Allow them to know with great assurance, Lord, that you have them. You're holding them. You have cleansed them. Give them that hope. Allow them to see that hope. Lord, then, Lord, give them strength and perseverance. Allow them to know that the light within them is you, not their own. That the light that they are asked to shine on a hill is not their own, but yours. Lord, I thank you. I praise you for these students. Allow them to be lights in their classroom. Allow them to be lights to their classmates. Lord, allow us to see each other as you made us and designed us in your image. Not in the differences between us, but in the likenesses of who you are. Lord, I praise you tonight for your word. Lord, I pray tonight that your word will continue to share truth even through wonderful creatures like dinosaurs that you made. Lord, allow us not to see them in a way that causes problems for the word. Because, Lord, they don't. And I thank you for that. I thank you for the evidence coming out of all the tissue and blood cells, Lord. I thank you so much for that. All those little things like that tell me your word is right. But I praise you for that tonight. Lord, excite these students for your word. Give them a passion. Give them a desire to just dig into it every day and learn new things. Allow them to expect you every day. I pray all these things in your son's name. Amen.
Can we give those guys a hand? Yeah. All right, I realize that some of you guys have to leave, and if you have to leave, you're free to go. We are done. However, I do want to give you guys a few minutes here if anybody has any questions for Matt or Ryan. So I'm going to invite them to come back up here with me for a little Q&A time. If we have any questions, does anybody have any questions? Ryan's going to chicken out. He's going to hold the poop in the back. The poop rock. Does anybody have any questions for Matt that he didn't quite answer? Yes?
Okay. Which ones are what?
Which ones are real and which ones are fake?
And replica. Very good. Very good. The F word. I don't like the F word. Fake. Fake. What were you thinking? Okay.
False?
Okay, so this guy's a research replica. Actually, his actual bones that used to be on display in the Black Hills Institute were just recently sold. I think I told the young kids that. I didn't share that with you, did I? Stan's actual bones that used to be in South Dakota just went up for auction last October, and somebody bought them for $32.1 million. And then it's all anonymous. Nobody knows where he is right now. Somebody bought him. We have no idea who. Okay? So that's an interesting little wrinkle. Like the rest of the paleontology community is like, wow, we just lost a dinosaur. Okay, so this is an Albertasaurus. He is a research replica. His original bones were found in Montana. This guy here, this Hadrosaur, over almost 40 feet long, was originally found outside of Hays, Kansas. So when you guys head to go skiing on I-70 and you hit Hays, yeah, they're in the fossil record right there near Hays. My guess is he's not the only one there, okay? He's just been the one that's been found there, okay? So, replica, this one here is cast. This is very close. This is a dromaeosaur. This is very close to the actual size of a velociraptor found in the fossil record. They are not this big in the fossil record. They are this big in the fossil record.
They're still very big.
It's a movie! It is not a documentary, okay? So, the egg here, we did not talk about the egg. This is an actual egg of a hadrosaur, one of the duckbill guys. So they were about yay big, okay? Yay big when they were born. Cute little, okay. So that's actual, the trilobites are actual fossil material. The pachy is a replica of one dug up in Wyoming. This is an Edmontosaurus, one of the dinosaurs that has the most number of teeth, okay? Also, this was a replica. There have been more of hadrosaurs, the duckbill ones, than like any other kind of dinosaur I ever found. Like there are just huge graveyards of those. Okay? As if they were all washed in and buried together, like during some kind of a flood event, some paleontologists have said. You know? I kind of know what that flood event was. I got an idea. Anyways. So good question. Okay? Anybody else? Wow.
Over here, man.
Oh. The human ones? Are you talking about humans? The humans, we carry those with us because sometimes we get an opportunity to talk about, okay, so this is a Neanderthal replica. Neanderthals are just people like you and me. They had a bigger brain capacity by and large. They were bigger. This is a replica. This is not real. This is not an actual one. This is a replica. They're people. They were reclassified several years ago to Homo sapiens, which is you and me, okay? They used to be some like ancient ancestor that was supposed to be closer to a primate, but the more we find of them, they're people. They buried their dead with flowers. They showed signs of having makeup. They had the understanding to take birch bark sap, heat birch bark sap to a certain degree, the exact degree that changes birch bark sap to super glue. And then would super glue their spearheads to their spear staffs. They did not tie them like we find in other people around the world. They super glued them. Does that mean stupid to anybody in here? Does that mean dumb? See, we have this idea that when you hear the word caveman, what's your world do you go to? I can't speak, and I'm kind of hunched over and dragging my woman by her hair. Right? Hello? Am I off? Who's seen the cruise? Come on now. You guys are looking at me like I just went crazy. You've seen the... Don't even give me that look. So... You know what? You know what we find? You know what the evidence actually shows? No. What was Adam like? What was Eve like? Could they speak? Yes. Have you ever thought about? See, we never bothered to actually think about that. When we think of this caveman idea, that we're fed all the time, that somehow we're getting better and bigger and blah 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 blah. We're getting smarter. We're getting. You understand? Adam and Eve weren't cavemen. Weren't cavemen. They were people. These people. Following the flood, following the Tower of Babel, if during an ice age and you do not have trees to build houses, but you find a hole in the ground, would you live there? Would that make you dumb? No, that would make you brilliant because you're surviving. They have found houses in Siberia that are made out of mammoth bones that had 5 different rooms or hearths in them. Families would build and construct out of. Does that make them dumb? See, we have this visual image of a caveman as being dumb. They were not dumb. They were just people surviving, just like you and I would. Okay? The other one over here is a fake. It was a fake. It was used in a trial called the Scopes trial, but it was actually a fake. It came out several years later. So we have a copy of it to show that it was a fake. Okay? So good question. Good question. Trilobites.
Are some replicas or are they all real?
No, these are all actual ones here. Underwater roly-polies, if you will. That some are still alive today, by the way.
Which one am I?
They're not all extinct. Okay? Alright? Anybody else? Go. Come on. Oh, hang on. I'm old. I can't hear. The Hadrosaur, the pointy nose, that one was found in Kansas. In Kansas. A lot of water in Kansas, isn't there? No. But there was a lot of water over Kansas at one time, okay? Enough that would bury that kind of creature. 40 foot long, 6 foot flippers, okay? has teeth. Make sure you check out. The light shows them really well. God designed him with teeth in his throat. Come on now. Whatever he was eating was not coming back. It's not coming back. Right? Yeah. Yep. Did dinosaurs have feathers? Woo! There's a good question. Guess how much visual evidence we have in the fossil record? None. Zero. So here's the thing about the fossils that are projected to have feathers. There are bird experts that look at the same fossils that the paleontologists that want to argue that they have feathers on them. They look at them and go, you know what? They look like they have the same structures as we've seen when dinosaurs begin breaking down and decaying and then they're buried. Their muscular structure and their skin will break down and become fibrous. And they can look just like feathers. We have never, listen to me, paleontology has never, let me repeat myself again. What did I say? Never found a fossil that is legitimate. There have been a couple faked, by the way, but that's a whole other issue. I'll leave over there. And they've been shown to be fake. It's not just me calling them fake. Peer review went, that was fake. Okay, so there's never been one found that has been confirmed to have feathers. Filaments, sometimes the word is used called filaments, hair-like structures. But there's a lot of bird guys that are like, yeah, nope. Those are just, they're pieces of muscles or skin that are breaking down and they become fibrous looking. And they can have an appearance that looks like feathers sometimes. Okay? God made birds on what day of creation? The 5th. And he made land animals, aka dinosaurs, also on what day? 6th. The day after he made birds. So are dinosaurs going to evolve into birds? No, birds were already here. By the way, when you look at the little charts, so there's charts out there of how the evolution as dinosaurs evolved into birds, and they have this little list of dinosaurs, and some of them are starting to get feathers, and then they develop wings, and then they're flying over here on this end. You ever seen a chart like that? You know what never is told on the chart that you can go do research? Find out the date of where each one of those are found in the fossil record. By the evolutionary age. Guess what you find on those charts? Every one of them. Listen to me. Every one of them. All the little bird fossils that are supposed to, the dinosaurs are becoming birds, becoming your chicken you had today, maybe. The birds are all aged in rocks under what the dinosaurs are aged. They're younger. They're found in rock above where the birds are. Wait a minute. If they're supposed to be evolving into birds, how do they show up later?
Right.
The fossil record is not. It's not about history.
Right, put it up on the screen.
Ah, there you go. Very good. Thank you, sir. Do you see the ages? So these guys are what we're supposed to be evolving into. But wait, that's 147 million year old versus 94. How does that work? Nice story, but the data doesn't back it up. Their own data doesn't back it up. Question? But eye sockets, what about eye sockets? Yes, we have them. I don't think so. That's where I lie. I doubt we're going to find it. Here's the issue with it. If we do, what does it mean? Okay, could be. But we have interesting animals. God did very creative things like the platypus. A mammal that lays eggs. So we do have some instances of created things that reproduce after their kind. Platypus always make more what? platypus. Like, no, we've never observed a platypus all of a sudden laying an egg and we get a duck, right? So there are some examples of certain characteristics that we think about with certain animals in the animal kingdom that are used in other things, but may we find a dinosaur, more likely we're going to find a dinosaur that may have had some kind of fibers on them. Maybe more reasonable than the true feather-like structure, like a feather. We may find something that has some kind of a hair or some kind of a filament like that. That seems fully reasonable. Doesn't cause the Word of God any problem that He created everything by their kind to reproduce after their kind. Theropod dinosaurs, everything we can tell them in the fossil record, they always had more theropod dinosaurs. Okay? They didn't all of a sudden lay an egg and we get a triceratops. Okay? Two totally different hip structures. Okay? That whole bird evolution thing, there's nothing to back that up with. Okay? If anything, okay, so this guy walks on two legs, kind of like a bird, right? Problem is, he has a lizard hip. Ruh-roh. Doesn't have a bird hip. See, dinosaurs are either bird hip or lizard hip. You would expect that all of the ones that are supposed to become birds should have what kind of hip? Bird hip, right? The vast majority of bird hip dinosaurs walk on four legs. They don't walk on two legs, the ones that are bird hip. The vast majority of the lizard hip ones, they'll walk on two legs. I love the Lord. I have to believe He put that in there like, well, there's this thing coming down the pipe that says that dinosaurs become birds, but I'm going to mess with them. What? Hang on. You asked what I want him.
Is Megalodon a dinosaur?
No. Why? What is a dinosaur? A land-dwelling reptile. So what is a megalodon? What was it? It was a shark. Sharks are what? Fish. They're fish. Actually, I ride on the side that a megalodon was just a larger great white shark. He had the ability to live longer, so he grew a little bit bigger. Their teeth structure, the teeth that have been found, are like mere images of them, just bigger. Okay? So that's where I ride personally. All right? We still have megalodons. They just don't grow as big as they used to.
Wait, we still have them?
We have great white sharks, don't we?
So you're saying if I fed steroids and shark meat?
You know? I have no problem with that. We could very well have a megalodon because look, their teeth structure, their teeth shape, almost exactly the same as a great white shark. Okay? So there's no reason that listen, look. This guy right here. Check this guy. Oh, that's not me.
Hey, can somebody go up there and push the button? So
this guy here. Check this guy out.
And go.
That's a beaver. Everybody knows what a beaver looks like, right? All right. How big? Show me beavers in Missouri. You're in neck of the woods. Is that body and tail or just body? Body. Good. Okay. All right. That's a little bigger than the one I met one day. A little bit bigger. Fishing. I met one fishing one day. It was September 11, 2001. A day I will not forget. I was fishing that morning. I had no idea what was going on the East Coast with the Twin Towers and all that. I was fishing. I was in this nice little quiet cove in Kansas fishing. Guy take me fishing. I don't fit. I'm a horrible fisherman. And so I'm standing there, and I see something out of the corner of my eye right there move. And I look down, and there's a beaver, like half in the water, half out, just looking at me. Like, neither one of us moved. I mean, we were both like, what? I don't know how long he'd been there. I don't know where he just came up. I have no idea. But we're standing there, we're looking at each other, and we both kind of back off each other at the same time. Listen, in the fossil record, though, I'm thankful I did not run into one of these beavers. Castorites ohioensis, in the Ohio fossil record, beavers at some point in history AKA prior to the flood, well, they were about 5 feet long, their body. They could stand up and they weighed 300 pounds. So if things in the fossil record, there are several things in the fossil record that are bigger in the fossil record than they are today. I have no issues that the megalodon could not, it quite possibly is a great white shark. It just had the ability to grow bigger prior to the flood. Okay? If beavers had that ability, if bison, buffalo had that ability, we have bison in the fossil record that were 10 feet tall at their shoulder. 10 feet tall. We don't have bison that big anymore. Okay? Alright? So, see, now I know some of you, when I'm showing the red blood cells, how many of you were like, oh yeah, we're gonna make it. Yeah, we don't have viable DNA found. No viable DNA, okay? Actually, I can show you a picture of the best DNA found of a dinosaur to date. This was last year in April. We have just now found DNA out of some of that blood cell. You see this right here? That is a chemical reaction to DNA in the cell. This is, look what they're comparing it to. What are they comparing it to? Jack Horner, that fellow I mentioned, that you heard, his idea is that in Montana on his farm he has emus. His idea is that he can take an emu, his emu population, and he will turn them someday, figure out how to genetically turn them back into dinosaurs. He thinks they're like one of their closest relatives. I hate to tell him there's a lot of different things. There's a lot more problems that he's going to have lots of problems with that. Okay? I saw a hand somewhere. Ooh, smallest dinosaur fossil. Ooh, you know what? I don't know what the smallest dinosaur is. The compies are those little guys that were about yay big. The average size, so out of everything that's ever been discovered by paleontology, so if you average everything, it's about sheep to cow size. It's average. So our brain goes to what? They're all huge? Not always true. There's enough smaller ones found that average them out to sheep to cow size. Okay? So there were there's lots of little bitty ones. Okay? I don't know what the smallest is. That's a really good question. Do some research. Send it to me. Okay? I need to know that. So it's a good question. Titanoboa is a real thing. And it's in the book called Monumental Monsters right back there.
Featured on the cover.
Legit thing. He's actually on the front cover. Yeah, he is. Last question. Problem?
Yes.
How we doing? Yeah, last question. You get it.
Was the pterodactyl created on the 5th or 6th?
Woo! That's a good question. Where do you ride? What do you think?
I think it was on the 5th.
Why?
Flying.
Because he's flying. I am with you. I ride that animal there, the winged creatures, even though they were reptilian, from all that we can tell, in all their different variety, the Quetzalcoatlus, it's 42-foot wingspan. Can you imagine 42-foot wide flying reptile? Okay. I do. I ride that they were made on day 5. Not everybody agrees with me there. Okay? And that's fine. So do your own research. Guys, I appreciate you guys being here tonight. And guys, keep studying. Love the Word of God. Have a passion for it, please.
Listen, guys, between now and next August, start thinking of any question that you want to ask this guy, because he's coming back. Him and Ryan are going to be coming back next August. So August of 2022, these guys are coming back, all right? All right, guys, have a blessed night. Have fun at school tomorrow.